So guys, some exciting news. There's all kinds of people talking about a possibility of a much larger displacement GM Duramax engine. The current engine today is a 6.6 liter. It's been out since I think 2001, and it's been a phenomenal engine. Isuzu and General Motors co-developed this motor back in the day, and there's still some sort of joint venture. I know Italy, I think the Turin or Punch, and it's an engineering firm that works with General Motors, has been in development with this powertrain for the past few years. But this is exciting news. And you want to start asking yourself, is this legit? Is this actually happening? And that's what we're going to kind of talk about a little bit, and might start looking at, could this be a trend we see with other powertrains from General Motors? Or is there even possibly something bigger going on that could be pretty awesome for all of us? You know, everybody's been seeing the push towards electrification and hybrids. So when you see the news of an 8.3 liter, was that 1.5 liters larger displacement diesel engine, a pickup truck, it's freaking awesome. I'm really excited to see this. The last time I've seen an engine over 8 liters was the Vortec 8100 back in 2002, the gas engine. So to see an engine this large, besides that, I've never seen one in my lifetime. So I want to kind of show you some of my thoughts on this, of what might possibly be going on. First, I'm going to share an article. GM Authority typically is a really good source of information. It's typically pretty credible, and they kind of talk about this a little bit as far as GM. There's some folks are saying that GM is planning an 8.3 liter turbocharged Duramax engine. So if we look at today, if this was an 8.3 liter engine, is this going to be the same size block? Are they going to bore out? Are they going to stroke? So if they are going to an 8.3 liter engine, this would almost be an extra 1.7 liters of displacement. That's a ton. So I'd be surprised if you could make that same engine block be able to support an extra size stroke or length or bore size. So I'm wondering if they're developing a whole new engine block, which is interesting. Then the next question is, in the age of increased fuel economy, reduced emissions, why the heck is this happening? That could be part of the story, actually. So if we go over into the Duramax forum, some guys are kind of talking about this also, and they kind of alluded to a part of this, of what could be driving this larger engine displacement. So General Motors is not the only engine company or car manufacturer looking at larger displacement engines. I'm going to share an article here I found when I was actually looking into this. I'm going to show an article here about what Porsche is doing. So Porsche is bringing back larger displacement engines also in some of their in some of their different cars, and it talks about with some of the different emission regulations. Like if you look up the European emission regulations, so in the United States we have the EPA. In Europe, you have the European Union, and they have regulation standards. So it used to be like Euro 5, Euro 6, and then Euro 7 is coming. If you go down in this article, I'll talk about this. It's something called Euro 7. The next big emissions target scheduled to be a mandate by 2026. With the emission standards for the Euro 7, they decided to bring back the acclaimed 4-liter natural aspirated engine. They're still keeping the 2-liter turbo, but they're also bringing the 4-liter back. People are ecstatic about that because it's a great engine. And you ask, well, why are they doing this with stricter emissions? So with larger displacement engines, you can reduce cylinder pressure. The reduction of cylinder pressure can reduce the nitric oxides, part of the hydrocarbons that are produced from the combustion cycle. So that could be part of this whole thing. But the downside to a larger displacement engine typically comes at a cost of fuel economy. So these car manufacturers or truck manufacturers, or even in the state of, say, like Cummins engine manufacturers, if you make a larger displacement engine, the downside is worse fuel economy. So you're always battling what's called CAFE. NHTSA has a corporate average fuel economy, also known as CAFE. This is a average of fuel economy that is required for every manufacturer of making cars. The downside to a larger engine, most of the time, is worse fuel economy. But if we look at General Motors and what they've done over the last 50 years, they always somehow figure out how to take this simple engine that others are coming up with, dual overhead cam and all these sophisticated powertrains, and GM is still running pushrod engines. I'm wondering if GM has something up their sleeve where they're going to be able to increase displacement, lower combustion temperature, reduce NOx, give you the horsepower, give you the fuel economy. This could be pretty awesome. And General Motors is not the only ones looking at this. As I show you this article here, this was written back 2 years ago, actually almost 3 years ago now. Porsche's already doing this as well. So on some of these high-end engines, sometimes they're finding a larger displacement engine is better than a smaller displacement. And then you say, well, maybe there's more to the story. Well, and there could be, because look what Ford did here just a few years ago. They replaced the 6.2 liter gas V8 in the heavy duty truck segment with a 7.3 liter gas engine. So that engine went up almost 20% in size. They added 1.1 liters of extra displacement. But by doing so, they were able to minimize or potentially reduce their nitric oxides and their hydrocarbons. And what's interesting is I've owned a 6.2 and I've done dozens of reviews on 7.3s. I haven't noticed any worse fuel economy with a 7.3 than a 6.2. And I think in some cases it's better, more power. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe Ford was already ahead of the curve a little bit potentially with some of the gas engines. So it's going to be really interesting to see the powertrains and what's coming out with some of these larger trucks here in the next few years. Maybe GM is onto something. You know, Ford released the high output Power Stroke, and this thing's an animal. I've had a lot of Power Strokes, I've had a lot of Duramaxes, and now I have a Cummins. But the new 1,200 foot-pounds of torque high output, it's definitely in a league of its own right now. And I think GM is trying to answer back a little bit, and it might be an 8.3 liter Duramax. This would be huge. And people that are Duramax fans, I get it. These motors are incredible. They get phenomenal fuel economy. They're quiet. They make a lot of power. You rarely hear of issues with the Duramax. There potentially be more to the story. Maybe GM is making a change on a truck. You know, Ford has the 45 or the F450. Ram has the 4500. GM already makes a 4500, 5500, and a 6500. Wonder if there's a chance that they could be coming up with a 4500 like Ford did on the dualies, where you could have the better turning radius and the stronger axles and it be on a 14,000 GVW truck. Could you imagine a GM pickup truck, 4500 with a better turning radius and a dually and an 8.3 liter Duramax? That could be interesting. A lot of people are talking about power numbers, and I've heard 600 horsepower, I've heard 500, I've heard 1,200 foot-pounds of torque, 1,500. I've scoured all over the internet. I have not found anything that says anything of that nature. But given the fact that GM is going this large, I think it's probably pretty fair to set your sights on something that's going to be pretty incredible. If I had to guess, I'm thinking this will be at least 500 to 550 horsepower, but horsepower is never really what you're searching for in a diesel. And since the target is already set in the market for 1,200 foot-pounds of torque, and this engine's not out yet, it makes me wonder, could this be a 1,500 foot-pound torque engine? Which is insane, because the limits of torque already is traction. I mean, you have to have so much torque management in any of these new diesel trucks just to get going, or you spin the wheels. So this will be pretty neat. I'm going to kind of keep tight on this and see. I'm going to include some articles here so you can kind of see the Euro 7 regulations and how it impacts engine displacement and kind of what some of the different manufacturers are doing. But if I had to guess, I would bet this 8.3 liter Duramax is a real thing. And I'm also wondering if GM is planning even something more, maybe putting this thing in like a 4,500, like Ford did with the F450. That would be incredible. So anyhow, I hope you liked the video. I'm going to keep my eyes on this, and I'm also already watching some of the different EPA regulations and some of the bills and things that are going to be going, because this impacts the automotive industry massively. If some of these changes don't take place, or if some things don't happen, we're going to see massive changes in engine size, horsepower, fuel economy. Everything will change drastically in 2027. I'm trying to keep my eyes on this and just see what's coming down the pipeline. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Have a great day.